right, our next speaker, Lauren Rothlisberger. No relation to the football club. Thank you.
Everybody else is like girl power, and I'm like, let's get Enter the Sandman in here, because my asset class is not very pretty, and it doesn't have all the appeal that some of these others do.
It's not like the $1 million+ dollar homes in Asheville, North Carolina? No. Why don't we show your pictures of your assets?
Do we have one?
There we are. How about that?
So, what makes them pretty is that each of those little doors represents a tenant that pays to put their stuff inside there. So, yeah, that's
Okay,
it.
so tell us, where do you live, how many kids you have, and how you got started in this journey.
Okay, so I live in basically Pinehurst, North Carolina, which is south of Raleigh, about an hour, which we have this, turns out to be the Pinehurst table, which I...
You know, she lives in Pinehurst.
Yeah, I haven't talked to her yet, but I will. So I live there because my husband is in the Army, and so we live on the other side.
Thank you for the service.
Welcome. We have 4 kids, so I have 3 girls, 17, almost 15, almost 14, and an 11-year-old son. And so the journey, actually, when Shannon was up here, there's a lot of similarities to our journey. I don't know how, but I got it in my head. I have an uncle that did a ton of real estate, and I always watched him growing up. And so when we first started moving around the country, I was like, I just want to try and buy a place everywhere we go. So we did always buy a place. And my uncle was like, well, how are you going to manage them when you leave? And I was like, well, I mean, I don't know. The property managers here are terrible. Like, the first place we bought was in a place called Fort Polk, Louisiana, which is really, really in the middle of nowhere. But you know that there's military families there, so you can always rent out to them. And this was just kind of like, I mean, that's 2008, 9. So the internet's kind of coming. And I was like, well, I just really think I could do this from afar. Like, I think people could just pay from afar, and I can do these vendors, and we have email, and like, this is just going to be so much easier. So I did that, and we continued to do that. And when we were in Georgia, I convinced my parents and my mother-in-law to buy additional investment properties, and I sort of started managing all them. And so we had a bunch of, single-family homes at that point. And I really wanted to get into commercial real estate, but I honestly just couldn't figure it. The numbers seemed so big and overwhelming to me. I was like, we don't have that kind of money.
Too much money and complicated.
Yeah, like I just was like, I didn't have any mentor or person to help me. And my uncle had mentioned self-storage to me years ago, but at that point in time, you were like, oh, you have to have a person that like sits there. And I was like, then I have to have this employee. And, I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. So then we get stationed in Germany, and we kept all those residential ones.
How many were there?
So I think we had maybe 4 of our own, and then I was managing maybe like 5 other family ones. But then
third party, or you were part?
I was self-managing it still.
No, but the 5, when you said I had 4 of my own and 5.
Or just my mother-in-law and my parents.
But were you equity in those 2?
No, I mean, really, they just worked me over is what happened. They're like, oh, eventually that becomes y'all. So, I was like, wait a second, this sounds like free labor.
Okay, so you're in Germany.
So yeah, we were in Germany, then we come back. And I did some other stuff in that. Like a friend and I had started this company where we actually trained, this was kind of when the gig economy was really cool. And so we trained a bunch of other military spouses to basically be these like boots on the ground. So we were we wrote a whole ebook about like, you can self-manage, you can buy real estate, like this is part of building your family's wealth. So buy real estate, self-manage, and then you can hire, we call them scouts, and we were like, hey, you can hire a scout, and if you need someone, you can go check in on your property, or you need to help turn it over. Just because in a lot of the towns that we live in the military, the property management companies are not great.
So you're like creating in the military world
like a whole network
business, right?
Yeah, we ended up selling it, yeah. So we ended up selling that business. So then fast forward, we get back from Germany, and
So while you were in Germany, did you sell the 9 houses and said this is too much?
No, I self-managed it from there.
Okay, from Germany?
Sure, I mean, why not?
Awesome.
It's only 6 hours
10
difference.
minutes from my house.
Yeah, well, now I'm there. Now I'm like, I don't want to buy anywhere other than where I live.
Germany, Hawaii.
Yeah, I just like,
Davey.
no. So then when we came back, again, I was just having this itch to want to get in the commercial side, and I randomly got on Twitter. I don't even remember why. And I sort of fell into this real estate Twitter world, and I started learning a lot.
What year was this?
So that would have been 2020, basically.
Yeah, so those of you that are not on Twitter and not on the real estate Twitter world, and you are interested in this, get on it.
Yeah.
I got on it 15 months ago. The education is priceless.
And that's basically what happened is I just learned so much. I realized, oh, you can do remote management of self-storage at this point. There was like software out there, and I learned about how to do it. And so I was like, we need to buy self-storage. Like, I just think this is it. And so my first one was listed on market. I mean, it was not even, this is kind of before all the craziness of the real estate. So
How much was it?
so it was 720,000.
Where was it?
It's right basically in Pinehurst.
Okay, perfect. So
yeah.
it's 10 minutes from your house.
It was like 15
Okay.
minutes away.
Awesome. And it was listed, so you got to go drive and see it.
Yeah, and I just kind of was like, I think we could do this. And at the time.
How many, are they called units?
Yeah, so that one was like 120.
Wow, that's a big one.
No, that's pretty small. All my stuff's pretty small.
Okay.
I know, it seems big, but then you have people that own like 700, and you're like,
Okay.
wow, that's like bananas.
So 120, is that it?
No, that's a different one.
Okay, so 120, 700 and change. Did
Right.
you finance it?
I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to talk about this.
I'm so
because
glad I
so I was like, oh, SBA loans. This is like, I kind of had read about that. I'm like, maybe we'll do that. And I'm actually so thankful that this ended up not working out. But so I went to do the SBA loan, and they said, well, the seller has to provide 3 years of tax returns. And my seller is an older man, and he was like, there's no way I'm giving you 3 years of tax returns. I will not give it to him. And that was it. So I was like, well, I guess this deal is done. Like, I don't have any other money to, I can't pull enough together to do that. And so, but I was like, I just feel like there's got to be a way. I didn't know anything about seller financing. So again, I'm on Twitter and I'm reading something, and I was like, oh, I could seller finance. So I go back to my broker who I was using at the time, and there's another older gentleman in town. And these are small towns. So, and I said, Roy, I'm going to ask John for some seller financing. Or can you ask John if he'd be interested? He said, I've known John a long time. He's not going to seller finance to you. I said, well, maybe we could just go talk to him. I said, you just never know, right? And he's like, he's kind of grumpy. And I was like, well, I mean, I don't know. So whatever. So we do. And this is very COVID-y. So we kind of have this meeting, and everyone has their masks on. And I just explained to him what I wanted to do with it, and how I was going to do this remote management, and the rents I wanted to run, to which he kind of was like, whoa. And we went back and said,
How old was he?
He's in his probably mid-70s.
And did he have a person sitting there?
He had a broker too.
No,
Yeah.
but did he have a, self-storage in the olden days where people
yeah,
sat
totally.
there? And did you tell him you wanted to automate it?
Yes, and he was
like,
he just like couldn't, yeah, he couldn't
Like
wrap
me
his
with
head
the
around it.
ADUs.
Yeah. Long story short, he basically said yes. He said, I will do. Now, he didn't finance the whole thing. He said, if you can get the bank, and he actually gave me the contact of a bank that he was an investor in, that was like, hey, so I want you to contact this bank. Tell them, we kind of worked it all out. He said, if they'll give you $500K, I'll give you 120, and you come with the rest. And so we worked the deal.
Did you say when you were asking him to seller finance, I can give you 50?
No, I don't remember what we said. Maybe we actually came to him saying, could you really do the 120?
Okay.
We knew he wouldn't do it all. He said he
Right.
wasn't willing to do it all.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was
and
the
then-
broker shocked?
Yes, he was. Actually, there's a lot of people, again, we live in a small town, so another banker, he's like, I can't believe you ever got John to seller finance that for you.
So how long was the seller financing?
It had a 3-year balloon on it, and I certainly had some tailwinds that, they just exist in the world. We had, obviously a big real estate boom. And so I was able to refinance that out and got him his money back within a year.
What was the interest rate he charged you?
I think it was, I'd have to go back to my paperwork. I've actually since sold that property, but I think it was about 4% or 5%. And I think I convinced him to do interest only, if I remember too. Yeah.
Do you have to pay him? So sometimes seller financing works when you say, I'll either give you more interest rate or I'll pay more of a price. Like, I know you don't want to seller finance and you were asking 700, but I'll pay you 800.
Yes. So
did you have to do that?
I gave him, he really wanted the 720, or I think he really wanted like 750, and I wanted 700 or something, and he said, 720 is where we landed, and which was closer to what he wanted.
Yeah.
He definitely likes to feel like he needs to win, so you can win.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So you closed.
Yep, closed.
Any surprises after you got in there, except for the pit bulls, dog poop?
No, one of the really hard things about storage that's so different than any other asset class is like that tenant has a lock on it, and you can't just open it up and look in there. So you have no idea, like you can only open the units that are not being rented at the time. Yeah, like you don't know what could be going on in there. And some owners, when they go to sell, put a bunch of locks on so it looks like they're rented out, and they're really not. So that's also like a
fraud
sneaky trick. It is fraudulent, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, we got in there and we just took care of the property and we fixed things that were wrong with it. We put an automatic gate system in place, which was connected to our software. So when people signed up, they could just, go in, punch in the code, and it automatically opened and
So
closed.
how much did you invest?
I think we landed at about $8,000 to $10,000 is what we put in.
All in?
Yeah, I mean, just between signs and, it really was like not much.
And then what was it occupied at the time that you bought it?
So when we bought it, he was occupied at about 75 to 80%, which is pretty standard in storage. It's really not. People love to be like, oh, it's 95, but it's really not. At the peak, we actually were totally full. And then I kept raising the prices, and it was, kept getting, full and full. And then in the end, I thought I would kind of hold it forever. But after talking to a few mentors and stuff, I was like, I have all this equity in here, and I can't, it's the whole velocity of money thing. Like, I can't do other things because I can't get to this money. And you can only cash out refinance so much because you can only take so much depending on what the bank wants.
Did you have a prepayment penalty?
No, I did not.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So first of all, how did you market it to get it to 100%, or it was just the COVID craze?
Yes, again, some of it's just fortunate, but we do all our marketing and we do Google ads, but Google is huge for us. Google My Business is massive, and so we do lots of Google ads, sign on the road. That's our main marketing.
And then did you hire someone to sell it, or did you sell it?
No, I hired a broker to sell it who specifically does self-storage, and I like him because he just sort of comes with the list of people.
Exactly. So people say to me all the time, why are you hiring Marcus and Millichap to sell your shopping centers? Because they have the list of the people that are buying. I have the list of the tenants who lease it. I don't have the list of the people that are buying from California at 3 caps.
Yeah.
I don't have that list.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's worth it to hire someone. I always say if I sold my house, I would have to hire a realtor. I would have no idea how to sell my house.
Yeah, just go with the professional. I mean, they're the ones that know that. Yeah.
So you sold that deal. Do you know how much you made, like on a return?
Yeah. So we bought it for $720, and we sold it for $1.1 million over.
Amazing.
I mean, which over 2 years is good, right? Everything's over time.
Yes,
so,
for sure. Exactly.
But for that amount of time, that was a bunch of money that I could take and then put into some other stuff.
What do you own now? What's your portfolio?
So now we have 3 different storage facilities.
What are their units in each?
So one is an interesting story. The next one that I bought was actually 3 different locations, and that totaled, I think at the time, about 80 plus units. It was under 100, but 2 of them were on a highway that I knew that they were going to expand. So I just basically waited out, and if you don't know about eminent domain, instead of doing a 1031, you get to do a 1033, which is way better than a 1031 because
What is that? Well, I don't even know what a 1033 is.
So it is like a 1031, except you have up to 3 years to find your replacement property, because the problem with 1031s can be that you make a poor decision because you're so rushed to identify in 45 days.
So the government wanted to buy your property,
Yes.
but because it was a government eminent domain thing, you get way more time to put the money out that's tax-free.
Exactly. Yeah. So North Carolina DOT, we knew, and I actually hated these storage facilities so much. I hated them. They were like so difficult to manage. There was always people putting stuff in there they shouldn't have. It was just not great. So I just was so excited. DOT came in and was ready to do the buy.
So you bought them knowing that this was going to be a thing. How long between closing and you got the call from the DOT?
Well, they had already even the owners had the initial letter, and I think it's about a year later, and then the process is painful.
Why did the owner sell? Because the process is painful.
Yeah, they just didn't know any better. I don't think they realized how much money they would have made off of it. So
how much did you buy it for, and how much did you get from
So
them?
I bought all 3 for $650. And then I sold the other 2 for $490, and I still own 40 units, which really is better. Just the land that it's on is probably worth more. So and again, that was about 18 months in or something like that.
So you said, I really hated these. What have you learned in investing in self-storage that you've taken to now in your next acquisition? Like, I will not buy U-shaped retail strips because I don't want any elbow space. What have you learned?
It's a great question because I buy some pretty crappy properties. So
She's like, I don't have pretty pictures like everyone else. I'm like, I'm sure money is green and these are cash flowing. We like these, right, Chrissy? Yes.
I'll tell you what I wouldn't buy is something that clearly has bad drainage, because when they flood, it's bad. Also checking the roof, because if they leak, it's also bad. Aside from that, you're just going to get the tenants you're going to get. I mean,
do you do credit checks or?
No. No one would ever rent.
No one would rent?
No, I don't think so. They would just be like, no, I'll move on to, because no one does it, right? So then your competition isn't doing it, then, no one's
Have you ever found a dead body?
No, although we did.
I know. all of you were thinking that. I know it.
Well, the number,
I feel the questions coming my way. Ask her if she found a dead body.
we did have a woman that was looking for her husband's like ashes, and she had been calling all these facilities, and we had one unidentified unit that we hadn't figured out who rented it or anything, and so we were like, oh, maybe that's it, but it was not. It was just.
So you probably own metal cutters.
Yeah, you actually use
Right. I don't own them, but I bet you do.
You use an angle grinder. I don't cut many locks off. I have, but I'm willing to get my hands dirty always. But I have a property manager that does most of that for me.
So is that on your team or is it a third party?
I mean, it's not a third party. It's on my team, and then I have virtual assistants in the Philippines, and they answer all my phones and do all my customer service.
Wow, raise your hand if you use virtual assistants. A lot of people. I have yet to go there. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have the rock star.
Yes, you have Josie.
Okay, so lessons, is everything else you now own, do you think you're going to hold?
Yes, except for one I think we'll probably sell, and then the other two will hold. And the one I'm talking about in my breakout later is actually, there's probably some of the pictures there. That one I'll hold for sure. It's actually not.
Why will you hold it for sure?
Because we have a lot of expansion space and there's a ton of growth in the area. And
so you'll build it?
Yeah, so we'll build more units.
Have you built any yet?
No, I'm building
You need Jessica.
I know, I'm building an industrial building, my first one.
How much does it cost to build self-storage?
It's more than you would think for metal buildings. So, I mean, it's about 170 a square foot or 160.
Wow.
I mean, depending on what you're building, how nice your doors are.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot to it. And a lot of it's just the prepping the land. I mean, what do you have to do to pour foundation down? But yeah, it's way more expensive than you would think for these metal roll-up doors.
Do you have to get it rezoned or it's already zoned to do it?
Yeah, ours doesn't have to be rezoned. It's already
When are you
zoned.
going to start building? Or when are you going to start expanding? What's your occupancy?
So that one's the one we bought in August and then spent the last 6 months basically raising the rates, which means we're in the dip of vacancy, or high vacancy, but we're in the dip.
We know about that, Natasha, right?
Yeah, so,
Yes.
but the spring comes, storage is very cyclical, so spring and summer are our best months. And so we'll see how the occupancy is at the end of the summer, and then probably look at trying to build maybe over this winter or by next spring, depending on where we are. Because I definitely have to prove that this is the best thing to build out there. We also, I mean, we have like 2 acres of space. Like we could decide to do something different and put up 5,000
Do you
square
know
foot
what
buildings.
Pinehurst needs?
Do tell.
Homes during the weekend of the U.S. Open.
Yes, there are.
I am
I'm gonna
staying
find a rental
45
for you.
minutes away.
I'm
It's
going to find a
crazy.
rental for you.
Oh
so.
my gosh. Okay, so if someone wants to get into self-storage, what is your advice?
Well, I think one thing to know about self-storage is like it is a daily operations business. It is true. It is a business for some other asset classes that are, maybe put a lease on it and you're not like, maybe you're just not in the day to day. It is way more of that. And you have, so this is kind of my thing is like, I love self-storage because I actually have a lot of tenants, which means that it's very unlikely that all of them will just move out and my property will be vacant, but I have a lot of tenants. So, we have hundreds and hundreds of tenants. So, on any given day, there's problems, complaints, issues, which is why I'm also interested in building a small light industrial building that will have 1 or 2 tenants. They're just very different dynamics. If you think you're going to discover amazing things, like in Storage Wars, you are not. Like, not likely at all. People think it'd be so cool to find cars. It's actually terrible because they're titled, and it's so difficult to, like, get rid of them.
What's the weirdest thing you found? I know you all want to know that too. Nothing?
No, I mean, there's so much trash. There's so much trash.
Oh, are you the person?
With the dumpsters.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wait,
I'll talk
she's
about
got a whole set. This is brilliant. Kim, we're talking to Barry about this. This is brilliant. I'm so glad I remembered because you weren't going to talk about that.
Okay, so basically, I was kind of like, I love real estate. I just want to buy tons and tons of real estate. But I was like, I feel like I need a little bit of a service business for like some cash flow. Because, real estate cash flow comes and goes, and you just have to, like whoever was just saying, I mean, just hold on to it. So, but I was like, I'd love something more service oriented. And so somebody somewhere I read had said, take something that's an expense item in one business and make it a profit item in another business. And so I was like, what do I pay for? Well, I pay sometimes for junk removal. If we can't auction, we have to go through an auction process, but if it doesn't sell, we just have to get rid of it. And I bring dumpsters in sometimes because if we buy a new place and we have to basically clear units that have been abandoned for years, which is a whole process, dumpster roll-off dumpsters are very expensive. And I was like, I think I need to own some of those. So as I mentioned, my husband's in the Army. He's gone a lot, and he loves to tell that when he was in a month-long field exercise where he didn't have his phone, and he got out and I was like, good news, I bought an F-650 and 8 dumpsters. He's like, He's awesome. He's like super, super supportive of all my crazy stuff. But yeah, so I just started officially running it only a month ago. So I really don't have like all these.
Stay tuned, but
Yeah.
I am my number one cost is garbage. And
Waste
it
management.
kills our numbers. And my partner talks to me every 3 months, how are we gonna get dumpsters down? And I think we're gonna go in the dumpster business
Yeah.
because I think we have regulations though.
You probably.
But we do a lot of junk pickup also. So I love the entrepreneurial
Well,
part of this.
I thought it was, I don't know, and it could be, I could report back in a year that it wasn't worth it, but I think I only have to rent, I bought everything outright, so I only have to rent four to five dumpsters a month to cover just my fixed costs, and then everything else is like my driver but I'm only paying that if I'm renting. So I'm already, in March, I already hit that number, so that made me feel good, like, okay, cool. So we'll see how it goes.
Amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
Lauren, thank you so much. Can we give her a big round of applause?